So we're on Kuf Tes Amid Beis, about 12 lines from the bottom. Hahu Gavra, the Mashkin Pardisa Lechavre, Le'eser Shnin. One person, Ruvain, borrowed money from Shimon, and therefore he gave him a piece of karka as a mashkin. And he gave it to him, it's something like a mashkin desura, but he gave it to him where that Shimon was entitled to take the peiros and use the money from the peiros to pay down the debt. The kosh l'chamishnin. After 5 years, in the normal course of events, the vines that were on this paradis, whatever fruit it was, stopped producing fruit. Abaye says that the wood of that tree that stopped producing fruit is considered peiros, and therefore Shimon, who is holding the mashkin and entitled to peiros, can sell the wood or burn the wood as peiros. Rava Amar Karnahavi. Rava says no, it's the Karen. It's the Karen that belongs to Reuven. It's part of Reuven's karka. So Shimon wants to benefit. He has to sell it and buy more karka, and then eat the peiros from that karka, because he's only entitled to peiros, not to deplete the principal. The same case of where Reuven gave a mashkin to Shimon to hold on to, and the tree dried up or it got chopped down. Both Reuven and Shimon, both the borrower or the actual owner of the tree, and Shimon, the lender, who's now holding it as a mashkin, can't use it. That means because Shimon is entitled to the peiros, and Reuven gave it as and Reuven, therefore Reuven is not entitled. Shimon is not allowed to use up the karen. Say that you should buy karka with it, which is like what Rava Pascha, not like Abaya. My love, Yovish, Dumyus the Nixits. This is talking about the same kind of case, where it's dried up, similar to where it got knocked down. Just like if it fell down when its time came, it got struck by lightning, but it's something that just happens in the normal course of events. Av Yavish Bismanis. The Yavish is also talking about where it just happened. So you see, it's like Rava said that something that gets depleted in the normal course of events, what's left over is still considered karen. So Gemara, it's the other way around. Nixus dumya di yavish. We're talking about where the tree that fell down was similar to the one that was yavish. My yavish below mane, af nixus below mane. Over here, we're talking about where it happened not at a normal time. So if it happens unexpectedly without us being aware about it, even Abaya would agree that it's not peiros. Peiros is something that happens, what produces fruit, or even a tree. One might say that after it dies, it expires when its time limit expires. So what's left over is also, in some sense, could be peiros. But something that got knocked down or that dried up because of a drought or something happened, that certainly is not peiros. That is certainly karen, even according to Abaya. Tashma. Nafla Gafanim V'Zeisim Skenim. A woman who is married, so what she gets, it was neifel to her a Yerusha. And as we've seen many times in Ksubas in here, that what's neifel to her in a Yerusha is considered to be Nichsei Milug, and the Nichsei Milug, the husband is entitled to peiros. So obviously that's how we're going to get into our question. We have it's coming from a different concept, because of the husband's right to the peiros of Nichsei Milug, but it's similar in the sense that the mashkin, the person holding the mashkin, the lender holding the mashkin, is entitled to peiros. So a man let's put it this way, a wife who was neifel defanim v'zeisim, vines, grapevines, and olive trees, skenim, that are old.
But so they're not good, or like the
They're
fact that
no
they're
longer
old?
good, right? They're no longer producing. Gemara is not clear at this point what caused them, what happened. Yimkul eitzim v'yilkuch ben karka. They should be sold for eitzim, and he should buy karka. V'oichel peris. So l'chayra, these are trees that are old and they died. It seems to be the same case that we were talking about till now. So why would it, according to Abaya, it should be treated as Paris if it's something that happens normally? Ema v'hiskinu. Where it says no, v'hiskinu, meaning it got old, not that it was really old, but it got old and therefore it's part of the normal process. It's not part of the normal process. And l'kuli alma, even according to Abaya, it would be Karen. V'ibay sema, la'av mi'ukimnalahi k'goyin shenafalo b'sada acharis. The kokal yakan. What says it could be over there, it's entirely not related to our question, because over there we're talking about a tree that is not on her property. So it's interesting. The Gemara says that a tree on your property, one can understand that in some circumstances the wood would be considered Paris, because you still have there's something else that's Karen here. You still have karka. And normally on a tree, the wood itself is also part of the Karen. But in this case, it'll be the Karen will be transformed into the Paris of the karka. But if it's just an isolated tree that's not attached to her land at all, it's a tree that her father owned that wasn't on his own karka. In that case, if you're going to allow the husband to consume the wood, then there'll be nothing left, and there'll be no Karen at all. So in that case, even Abai would agree that it's treated as Karen. Hahushtara. Now we're talking about a different topic. Hahushtara da'aviksiv be'shnin stama. There was a star that said that the same case we were talking about where Ruvain borrowed money from Shimon, and he gave him karka to take the Paris and use it to pay down the debt. Gave it as a mashkin, and in the interim, it's going to pay down the debt. And it just said the star on it just said that I, Reuven, am giving this karka to Shimon as a mashkin. Malva I'm a shalish and Leiva Arishtayim. The Malva says it was given to me for 3 years, and Leiva says it was given to me for 2 years. The Kadam Malva, Vachlinu Leperi. In that 3rd year came, and the Malva took the bull by the horns, and he said, listen, in the meantime, I'm eating the Paris. Minaman, who is believed? Rav Yehuda I'm a karka b'cheskes ba'alei kaima. Yehuda says, like, this karka belongs to Reuven. It's given as a mashkin to Shimon, and that's the only reason why Shimon's holding it is as a mashkin. So it's not his karka, and therefore the pairs that he took are not b'chaskasei. These pairs came from this karka. This karka is b'chazak. The chazak is that it belongs to its original owner. So Reuven is Reuven is considered the owner, and Reuven is the machzik in the pairs, and Shimon cannot take them. So he's going to have to ship. What's going to have to be is Shimon's going to have to pay Reuven back for the pairs that he ate. Kana says the other way around. No, you are trying to take money from the lender, from Shimon, saying that he was not allowed to eat these pairs. In the meantime, he has the pairs, and since he ate them, he doesn't have to pay him back. He's the muchzik. The Amar Paris Becheskes Eichlei Kaim. Allah is talking like him. He's right that we leave things as they are, and the Paris, the lender does not have to pay back the borrower, the owner of the mashkin. Missing a few words here, but we had this, I think, back in Bava Kama, or maybe earlier in Bava Metzia. Halacha is like Rav Nachman, and Rav Nachman says, there's the Gimel over here. But Amar karka b'cheskes balei medes. Rav Nachman said, "Oh, this is earlier. We had this a couple of lot before that he said Lagabi when someone rents a karka for the year, and he rents it with two lashonas. He says first that I'm renting it for the year, and then he says 1 dinar for 12 dinar, and then he says I'm doing 1 dinar per month, and it turns out to be an iber. What happens with the last year, the last month?" And Rav Nachman said, "Karka b'cheskes balei medes." That karka belongs to the owner, and therefore the renter cannot use it for the last month. So Gemara, it's not a comparison. Even though he paskin over there that we say karka b'cheskes balei kaimi, that doesn't contradict saying over here that peres b'cheskes eichlein. Hasan also delay avida legluyahi. Over there, we know what he said. There's no way to find out. There's no determination, additional determination. It's a question that he said 12 months for. He said the year for 12 dinar, and then he also said 1 dinar per month. There's no further information that's missing. So when they paskin, that's that. Whatever they paskin the karkas b'cheskes by le'omedes, and he has to pay him back, even if the purchaser or the renter ate up or used the karka for that extra month, he's going to have to pay back, and that's the end of the story. Hacham milsa david legluyahi. Over here, it says shnin stam, but they had an agreement for a certain amount of years. So maybe we'll bring Edim and prove later on that was maybe the borrower will prove that it was only for 2 years. That we won't do. We won't tell to take the money away from the lender, make him pay back the borrower. And then if later on the lender proves it's true that it was really 3 years, then we have to go back to the borrower and take the money back. So since it's something that can be found to be different, in that case we leave the money where it is. We don't require a payment where it might have to be reversed. What if you have a disagreement? The Malva says, I was given this mashkin for 5 years. The Leva says for 3 years. Amalei, Isili Shtarech. And the borrower said to the lender, they said to the lender, come, bring your star and prove it to me. That I guess they had a star that they gave when there was a mashkin given to prove that it's in his hands as a mashkin. Said, show me the star. Amle star irchasli. And the lender said, I'm sorry, I don't have the star. I'm Rav Yehuda Malva Neman. The Malva is still Neman. Even though he should have had the star, the Malva is Neman. Why? He had it for 3 years. And there was he has a chazaka. He could say, I bought it. And then the loiva will be out of luck altogether. Amalei Papa Ravashi, Rav Zidva, Avirulay Srilu, Hadar Rav Yehuda. They disagree with this, which Rav Yehuda said, that you say this migu, and therefore the malva gets to keep the extra 2 years, or what he consumed during those extra years. My timer, Haishtara, Kivdal Gavaina Koi Mizr Zorabe, or Mechmashu de Kavshe Lishtare. Since the lender needs to have this mashkin, he has to show that he's allowed to take the paris from this karka during the time that he's holding it. If the leva would come to him during those 3 years and say, "Get out of here," he could produce the karka. He produces the star and says that it's legitimately in my hands. So now, if he's saying that it got lost, it's suspicious. So therefore, we assume that he's lying. He hid it because it really only said 3 years. Sava.
We didn't bring this whole svara, which is a very good svara, beforehand.
Right, because we were saying the Taina the other way around. We said Rabbi Yehuda says that you do.
No, I'm saying with the previous case.
There was no star there. I mean, the star was not dispositive. There was a star. They didn't say the star was lost. Over there, we had the star, but we couldn't tell. He just didn't say how many years it was.
Right.
So and we're continuing to say what the Malva had in mind. Sava uchla tartan shen yisert. Says I'll eat an extra 2 years. Listen. He was still owed the money, and he just wants to get some of his payback. It's easy to see what his what his what do you call it? What do you call it when a person emphasizes for himself that we had in the beginning of Baba Kama?
His motive?
No. There's a Gemara term, a way a person convinces himself that he's not doing anything wrong.
Yes.
He's marhat alatzmei, but there's a different lashon. Amalei Ravina l'Ravashi elamayata. Haimashkanta desura. We learned back in Ezu Neshech that in order to avoid ribis, when you give a mashkin and you allow someone to eat, you make it, you structure it not as a mashkin with Paris, as a loan with Paris, but rather you're selling to him for a certain amount of years, and that you're giving it to him for a certain amount it's a sale, and that value is what's being used to pay back the loan. So Hai Mashkanta Dusur, the Kosvi Hachi Mishlam Shnia El Tepakara says at the end of this amount of years, the land's going to go back to me. We'll go back without him paying any money. If the person who got this mashkanta desura, the lender, if he'll hide the shtar, he'll say it's by me. He should also be believed, because we'll say there's another kasha on the original taina of Rav Yehuda that says we can make a migo. It's an additional problem. First of all, like we said, he's not going to be believed. He shouldn't be believed because he shouldn't have lost it. But also, this could be misused. The chachamu masaken mashkanta desura in order to avoid the problem of ribis.
Right.
The Gemara is asking, how could they be masaken something that could cause such a problem, that could lead to such a problem? How could the chacham be masaken such a thing? Amalei hasam tekinu l'rabbanan demari ara yov taska v'kari kari. The Gemara says no. That's not a taina that we're worried about the mashkanta desura. Mashkanta desura, there's an eitzah that that the chamu misaken, that the original owner continues to pay the taxes, and he has to provide certain maintenance of digging ditches. So by doing these things, he makes it impossible for the lender to say that I have a chazaka because this guy continues to work on it. So what about a land that doesn't have these necessities? So there's no opportunity for the loiva to prove that it's his, and to get rid of the possibility of a cheskes gimel shan, a kind of cheskes gimel shan. Amalei iboy. On that, once it's that specific case, that there's no possibility where the lender can prove it's his, which a chamu misakani should do, he has to go and register his protest. Go to the recording agent and say, by the way, this is my land. What happens if he's not? That once it gets to that he should have been enough on the ball to realize. So you have a machlokes between an aris and a balabais. Agreed to pay a percentage of the harvest, and the aris says we made up, I get half, and the balabais says I get shlish. Me nemen. If you have a balabais nemen, says the balabais is nemen, and therefore he only gets a third. Nachman says no, he doesn't get. He disagrees with Rabbi Yehuda. L'chayra, he says akol k'midik hamadina. Savamina loy pligi. They wanted to say that they're not really arguing. Habasa the shakal arisa palga, habasa the shakal arisa tilsa. That which Rav Nachman said that hakol k'midik hamadina, that's talking about a place where the minig is taka, that he gets half, and therefore in this case also the aris gets half. Rav Yehuda said balabayis nem, and he's talking about a place where the minig is to do a third. Amalahu Rav Mari brought the Bashmuel. Rav Mari said back, Hachi Amar Abaye, I feel ba'asur the shakal arisa palga pligi. No, pligi Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says he only gets a til, so the balabayis is nemen. It's even in a place where the aris normally gets half. Amar Balabayas Rabbi Yehuda Amar Balabayas Nem. The boy Amar Schiri Lakitihu. He has a migu that he could have just said, no, he could have kicked him out at any time. He could have said, he could have had him work for the whole year, and so he's a hired hand. I don't have to give him anything. He has no shtar, he has nothing to prove it, and there would be no way to disprove it. So the fact that he's saying, I did hire you, but we made up for you to only get a third, even though the minig is a half, in that case, he's believed. Okay, Yasher Kayach.
Thank you, Yom.
Tomorrow?
Yes.
15. I hope tomorrow will be the last day of 6:15.
Whatever.